Hello! So somehow this week I find myself living a super glamorous literary life because I'm on my way to my second book prize ceremony of the week. And honestly, I'm not that fancy. I work from home. I spend 99% of my time sat at my computer in a t-shirt working or lounging around reading books. That is basically all I do with my time. But last night I was fortunate enough to go to the International Booker Prize ceremony, and now I am on my way to the airport to get a flight to Dublin to attend, yes, the Dublin Literary Award. And this is such a cool book prize. It's celebrating its 30th anniversary, and books are nominated for it by librarians from all over the world. And it is also quite a lucrative prize. There is a €100,000 prize pot. And also, this year's shortlist is so stellar. I made a separate video discussing all of the excellent books on the shortlist, and at the time of making that video, I had read 5 out of the 6 books, and now I have read the 6th book, The Adversary by Michael Crummy, and this is such a darkly engaging historical novel. It has such a thrilling plotline and such fascinating characters, and it is such a great new to me author, so I'm really looking forward to reading more by him. But yes, there are such an incredible group of books on the short list. So there's Northwoods by Daniel Mason, and there's Prophet Song by Paul Lynch, and the already much lauded James by Percival Everett. But why not give it more awards? And there's also We Are Light by Gerda Blees, and Not a River by Selva Almada. And I've honestly loved reading all of these books, so I don't know how the judges are going to choose what book should win. I mean, maybe because Northwoods and Prophet Songs and James have already got a lot of attention. Maybe The Adversary should win, or We Are Light, or Not a River. That would be really great to see. But honestly, I'm going to be so happy with whatever the result is. And of course, I love going to Dublin. I wasn't expecting to be invited to this prize ceremony, but they kindly sent me an invite, and I jumped at the chance because I've only been to Dublin briefly a couple times before, and it is such an amazing literary city. And because I feel so fortunate to be going to this, I want to make a vlog and take you along with me and show you some of the sights of Dublin, and show you all the excitement of the prize ceremony. And then there's going to be a dinner later on. So it would be such a wonderful thing, and I'm so excited to go on this trip. But I need to go pack now because I haven't done that yet, and I need to head out soon. But of course, since I'm going to Ireland, I need to bring along with me some Irish fiction. So there's a new debut novel called Show Me Where It Hurts by Claire Gleason, who is a short story writer, and there's Fiona Scarlett's new novel, May All Your Skies Be Blue. And then I have this older novel by Paul Lynch called Beyond the Sea. So it'll be such a pleasure to be reading some of this Irish fiction while actually going to Ireland. Okay, I'm going to head off now, and I'm going to try to film and show you what I can. It is a beautiful morning here in Dublin. You can hear some of the birdsong around me, and rather surreally, I'm here in St. Stephen's Green, which is just so strange because on the plane on the way over here, I started reading Claire Gleason's novel, Show Me Where It Hurts, and there's a scene in this book where the couple in it, early on in their courtship, they come here to St. Stephen's Green, and now I'm here. So I'm really getting involved in this book. It's a really heartbreaking story about a tragedy and family crisis and betrayal, but it's also a really involving story. So yeah, I'm about 90 pages into this and really getting into it. And I woke up this morning so excited to go out and see the city and hit some of the bookshops, although the bookshops open a bit later in the morning. So while I'm waiting for them to open up, I've been having to wander around the city and seeing some of the sights. Very excitingly, I'm here with none other than James Joyce. James, hi, how are you doing? Do you have any predictions for who is going to win the Dublin Literary Award today? Oh, well, he says naturally he is partial to James winning the prize, so we will see later on today. I've arrived here in the park where the Literature Festival is taking place, and I've got dressed up a bit more, and it's a beautiful sunny day, and the award ceremony is going to be taking place in the tent behind me in just about 25 minutes, which gives me time to grab a cup of tea and have a look around the bookshop.
Good afternoon, everybody. Lord Mayor, Chief Executive of Dublin City Council, ambassadors, councillors, distinguished guests, and those tuning in from around the world. Welcome to the 30th winner ceremony of the Dublin Literary Award. Before we begin, one of Ireland's most beloved poets, Paul Durcan, is being laid to rest today. Arieste Greba Anam Dilish. May he rest in peace. For the fourth consecutive year, the award ceremony is being hosted by the International Literature Festival Dublin, right here in this historic park, an ongoing celebration of our city's status as a UNESCO City of Literature. A warm welcome too to our international online audience joining us for this special moment, wherever you are in the world today. In just a few minutes, we'll be hearing from the Lord Mayor of Dublin, Emma Blaine, who will announce this year's winner. But first, let's take a moment to acknowledge the vital role of the judging panel. This award is truly global in scope. From a long list of 71 books, nominated by 83 libraries across 34 countries, our judges have narrowed it down to just 6 outstanding titles and now to 1 exceptional winner. Please join me in thanking our 2025 judging panel for their commitment, their expertise, and their thoughtful deliberation. They're here with us today in the front row. Please give them a well-deserved round of applause. Now, before we meet this year's shortlisted authors, we want to take a moment to reflect on just how special this year truly is. 2025 marks the 30th anniversary of the Dublin Literary Award, 30 years of recognising and celebrating the power of fiction from all corners of the globe. Since 1996, this award has honoured writers whose work not only captivates readers, but also crosses borders, languages, and cultures. Over the years, the award has helped introduce remarkable books to international audiences, and for many of our past winners, the impact has been truly life-changing, opening new doors, building careers, and connecting their work with readers worldwide. To celebrate 3 decades of outstanding literary achievement, we asked some of our past winners to tell us what meaning the Dublin Literary Award meant to them. Let's take a look.
It bought me time. I don't do anything else outside of writing. I'm good for nothing else. I don't have any other jobs. I don't teach or anything like that. So all the money has to be earned at the writing desk. So it bought me a great period of time to keep going and to keep working on the next books and the next projects.
It also does something with the audience, the reader's audience in your own country. You know, when all of a sudden they hear that a writer has won a big prize abroad, they think, oh, okay. So in a way, I can't say rediscovered, but you know, I think my readership in Holland also grew from this. So it is really an important prize.
The best thing an award can do, I think, is both give you some self-assurance, of course, but more than that even, I think it's give you a sense of freedom to continue doing what you're doing, right? Without really worrying about reception and what comes next, but really just trust that you should continue to do what you want to do and to do it in total freedom.
Winning the Dublin Literary Award was the biggest thing to happen in my career, and it gave me a much larger readership, not just here but all across the world, and it also allowed me to buy a house. You know, it was it let me get a job at the University of Montana. I think that was one of the things that made me competitive in a very competitive time.
writers who answer to buy a house, you'd be astonished by, or though maybe you wouldn't necessarily be astonished by that. As we celebrate 30 years of this extraordinary prize, it's important to remember the unique foundation on which the Dublin Literary Award is built. Libraries. Unlike any other major literary prize, this award is entirely powered by public libraries around the world. Their passion, their expertise, and their belief in the power of great storytelling. Libraries are more than places to borrow books. They're community hubs, they're centres of knowledge, and they're gateways to the imagination. They are where many readers and writers first fall in love with books. So we asked each of our 2025 shortlisted authors to share what libraries have meant to them throughout their lives. Let's hear what they had to say.
I was a kid who grew up in libraries. I think you can judge the quality of a culture by how well tended the libraries are in that particular country. I love the fact that the books in this prize are nominated by libraries. I think it suggests something very unique about this prize.
La Biblioteca Pública del Pueblo fueron los espacios a donde yo iba a leer, a trabajar, a buscar libros que podía llevarme a mi casa, y donde también encontraba otras personas que leían y con quienes podía yo comentar esas lecturas. Así que creo que no hubiese sido probablemente escritora si no hubiera sido gracias a las bibliotecas públicas.
At this moment, I go a lot to the library with my 3-year-old son to get new books and discover new worlds with him. I also go here to work. And I think it's no wonder that libraries have also become public spaces where a lot of other things are happening that are also about trying to understand each other.
I mean, I think of public libraries as kind of one of the last remaining old-fashioned institutions we have in our societies that are still doing what they were put in place to do, which is to provide a window onto the larger world for people.
When I was 12, I was admitted to the stacks of the library, the McKissick Library at the University of South Carolina. I shouldn't have been there, but I was, and probably wouldn't be a writer were it not for that library and others. I still remember the dank smell. It's where I discovered Kierkegaard and other philosophers.
I can still remember when I was a little kid going to our local public library. I can still remember the exact spot, the lower right-hand far corner of the library, where I would go to take the next 3 investigators' book to read. Sometimes so eager to read it that I'd be sitting on that floor in that little spot while my mother was looking for me, trying to get me to go.
I'm also genuinely thrilled somebody is still talking about 3 investigators' books in the 21st century, which is amazing. This year's ceremony is a particularly special one as we mark the 30th anniversary of the Dublin Literary Award. We honour not just the extraordinary writers who have received the prize, but the vision that has sustained it over 3 decades. A commitment to literature, to international dialogue, and to the power of public libraries. At the heart of that vision is Dublin itself, a UNESCO City of Literature, a city where storytelling runs deep in the streets and squares, and a city that proudly celebrates literature as part of its civic identity. The patron of the Dublin Literary Award is someone who embodies that civic and cultural spirit and who, in her role, champions the place of literature in the life of our city. I'd like you to please join me in welcoming to the stage to help us honour this milestone year, the Lord Mayor of Dublin, Emma Blaine.
Thank you, Rick. Good afternoon, everybody. Councillors, Chief Executive, Deputy Chief Executive, Dublin City Librarian, Ambassadors, former Lord Mayor Gay Mitchell, readers and guests. On behalf of Dublin City Council, I would like to welcome you to the 30th anniversary of the Dublin Literary Award winner announcement ceremony. Once upon a time, how often have we heard that throughout our lives? For as long as there have been humans communicating with each other, there has been the ancient art of imagining and recording activity over time. What is known by those in the know as a story arc, starting with that familiar, comforting phrase, once upon a time. It's a phrase that sets a scene, signalling us to gather round, to lean into the storyteller at the fire, or to follow the words on a page, bringing in an audience beyond themselves to share, reflect, and understand the heart of a story. After all, Dublin is a place where its citizens value the power of a story. Today we are celebrating 30 years of a city that has put its might behind an award honouring the storytelling tradition and the human connection that it brings. In a few moments I will be announcing this year's Dublin Literary Award winner. But as first citizen of the City of Dublin, I would like to reflect on the global significance of the Dublin Literary Award in this very special year. First of all, it's no coincidence that this award has originated in Dublin. It was actually an idea of former Lord Mayor Gay Mitchell, who thought a literary award would contribute to Dublin's renowned literary heritage in a place where even its bricks have a story to tell. 30 years later, Ireland is enjoying a halcyon time, where writers no longer stand on the shoulders of giants, but are giants walking amongst us. The internationalism of the Dublin Literary Award during this time has shown we are not preoccupied with ourselves, but have looked outward, wishing to connect with creative communities beyond our shores. This attempt to connect with other countries shines a spotlight back on Dublin and was one of the reasons why Dublin was designated 4th UNESCO City of Literature in the world. Another significant aspect of the award, often cited in international media, is that the nominations come from libraries and their communities of readers and not market-driven. A never-failing spring in the desert was how Andrew Carnegie referred to libraries, saying they outrank any other one thing a community can do for its people. It was former Dublin City Librarian Deirdre Ellis-King who proposed the idea of reaching out to the global public library network to seek nominations, making it a unique and democratic award. This year's winner will be selected from 83 libraries across the world, based in cities such as Seattle, Mexico, Utrecht and Dunedin, to name a few. It's a further endorsement of the award that libraries in nearly half of the UNESCO cities of literature have nominated books this year. Furthermore, at the heart of this special award is celebrating excellence in world literature. While libraries put forward the titles initially, every year an expert judging panel will read through the long list to select a shortlist and then a winner. I'd like to acknowledge the work of this year's judging panel of writers and academics and thank Martina Devlin, Professor Leonard Casuto, Nidhi Zak, Gerbrand Bakker and Fiona Z. who have taken on this year's reading task and selected a short list of breathtaking novels which will keep you going over the summer and beyond. A special note of thanks to the commitment of our current non-voting chair, Professor Chris Morash of Trinity College, who has presided over the judging panel since 2020. At the shortlist announcement in March this year, Professor Morash mentioned on radio how he was constantly surprised at how writers kept coming up with new ways of telling stories. You would think they would run out of them. The back catalogue of the awards winning novels offers us a prism of the finest writing you will ever come across, and I must acknowledge a couple of these winning writers who have joined us today. Anna Burns, winner in 2020 for Milkman, and Gerbrand Bakker, who won the award for The Twin in 2010. Both inventive and skilled storytellers. Let's give them a round of applause. Another very special aspect which makes the award significant is that it is inclusive in awarding works in translation from other languages into English. Peres Pettersen, Norwegian winner in 2007 for Outstealing Horses, described the award as a crowbar on the door of the English-speaking world. At least 1/3 of winning novels over the 30 years have been in translation. These novels offer perspectives of other unfamiliar cultures, building a bridge between readers across the world. This year, 2 of the 6 books on the shortlist are translated into English. We Are Light by Gerda Blees is translated from Dutch by Michelle Hutchison, and Not a River by Selva Amada is translated from Spanish by Annie McDermott. Irish translator Frank Wynne, who has won the award twice, said he owed his career as a literary translator to the Dublin Literary Award. a prize he cherishes because it makes no distinction between English and translated fiction, treating authors and translators as co-weavers of the endless braid of literature. Quite frequently, it's the small publishers who take on these works in translation, which is a big coup if their novels are in the winner's inclusion, as was the case for Deep Vellum in Dallas, who arranged the translation of Mircea Cărtușu's Solenoid from Romanian into English by translator Sean Cotter. Solenoid won the Dublin Literary Award last year, due in no small part to the nominating library from Cluj, Romania, who are represented here today. Indeed, the award demonstrates the commitment that Dublin City Council has for culture in administrating the award for over 30 years and cooperating with other global cities to make this happen. Since 2015, Dublin City Council have wholly supported the award, which was also previously supported by Impact. The work is an annual cycle beginning in early June, reaching out to judges, libraries, publishers and bookshops to ensure the process is kept on track to yield a winner, which we'll see today. I'd like to commend all the librarians, writers, publishers, booksellers at home and across the world who have supported this award over the last 30 years. I would also like to acknowledge the encouragement received from city councillors and officials for the award over the duration. A special thanks, of course, goes to the city librarian and her team who work so hard on this award. This investment is a large undertaking by Dublin City Council as it continues to recognise the role of the writer as a creative force in our society and their achievement on an international level. The impact of winning the Dublin Literary Award, as we've heard, is keenly felt by writers across the globe, bringing their work to the attention of wider audiences, reinvigorating them on their writing path and sustaining them while they work on their next novel. For the reader, the award has introduced them to 3,700 novels over 30 years, connecting them with other readers locally and globally. Each story, selected by a library, is a domino of emotions toppling across each other as the reader reflects on it. These novels are a cross-section of human experience beyond our frame of reference, pushing our boundaries, widening them, and making us all the better for them. Finally, this award is at the centre of a literary ecosystem which values inclusivity and creativity needed now more than ever. Its significance stems from the respect that Dublin has for literature, libraries, the craft of writing and translating, and the robust structures in place to nurture them. From once upon a time to happily ever after, the significance of the Dublin Literary Award is that it has wrapped us readers in the fabric of story over 30 years, woven from the finest threads of words by leading world writers. It celebrates the best of us through the written word from the heart of UNESCO City of Literature, who not alone focuses on its own writers and readers, but reflects the diversity and richness of other world languages and literature. And long may it continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, for those thoughtful words and for you and your fellow councillors' continued support of the Dublin Literary Award as we celebrate its 30th year. As we look ahead to the big reveal, we're almost there, I promise. Let's take a moment to acknowledge the exceptional quality of this year's shortlist. Our international judging panel had no easy task, narrowing down a long list of 71 nominated titles from 34 countries to 6 outstanding novels. Before we discover which book has been chosen as this year's winner, let's revisit those 6 remarkable titles and hear directly from the authors themselves.
Esa misma luz dorada los envuelve a todos, como si irradiara de los cueros las escamas chamuscadas, los pescados que fueron inmensos.
Then her characters, our characters, who are dangling in the void right now, like forgotten marionettes, waiting to be set in motion again.
He had no interest in any bookish undertaking or instruction. The only discipline he respected were his sister's sketches, which he looked upon as a kind of magic that he demanded to be taught.
Who loves a family, who's been torn from his family, a man who can read and write, a man who will not let his story be self-related, but self-written.
To step outside and lie down with it, to lie with the fallen leaves and let the night pass over, to wake then with the dawn and rise renewed with the morning come.
Lying beneath him in the leaves, in the low hollow of an oak, she arched her neck to watch the belted boots and leather scabbards swinging against the wormy ceiling of the world.
And now, the moment we have all been waiting for. It's time to reveal the winner of the 2025 Dublin Literary Award, and to do the honours, please welcome back to the stage the patron of the award, Lord Mayor of Dublin, Emma Blaine.
I promise I haven't looked at this before now. As Lord Mayor of Dublin, it is my very great pleasure to announce this year's Dublin Literary Award winner, and to once again thank the judges for their commitment in selecting the winner from a long list of 71 books. So now I am very pleased to announce that the 30th Dublin Literary Award winning book is The Adversary by Michael Crummy, published by Tyner.
Once again, to please give an enormous round of applause to the 2025 Dublin Literary Award winner, Michael Crummy.
Not really sure what to do with this.
Lose the check.
I hope that'll be okay there. Thank you all so much. I imagine that most of you in the audience are just as surprised by this as I am. I want to start by thanking the Lord Mayor of Dublin, who's the patron of the award, the Dublin City Council and its Chief Executive, Mr. Richard Shakespeare. Thank you so much. I also want to thank the citizens of Dublin, who I assume are underwriting this whole enterprise. The Dublin City Librarian, Myron Owens, the staff of the Dublin City Libraries. I am from Newfoundland, which I think some of you may know as Talamanish. Is that right? My Gaelic has a bit of a Newfoundland accent. Land of fish. But I was actually born in a mining town in the island's interior, which is about as far from saltwater as you can get and still be in Newfoundland. And it's been a long, strange trip from there to this stage. But if I had to name a beginning to that journey, it would be Saturday morning visits to the Buckins Public Library. I spent hours in that library as a youngster browsing and reading, and by most accounts, or by most measures, it was a pretty small institution. But when I was a child, I was awed by the number of books on the shelves in that room. And it made the little world that I was born into feel something close to limitless. And to this day, I feel the same sense of awe and possibility anytime I enter a library. So I do want to thank the Newfoundland and Labrador Public Libraries for nominating this book for the award. And also, I can't blame them for everything, but also for helping to make me the person and the writer I am today. I wouldn't be up here without the Newfoundland and Labrador Public Libraries. I never felt any real desire to write until my first year of university, which is when I first started reading and then writing poetry. I was still a kid then. I was 16, turning 17.
I didn't know poetry was fit to eat, to be honest, but I knew I wanted to do that, whatever it was. My ambition in those early days was to maybe someday, by the grace of God or something, have some poems published in Tickle Ace magazine, which was the only little literary magazine in Newfoundland and Labrador at the time. And if I'm being really honest, very little in my writing life has matched the shock and sheer joy of seeing a couple of my poems published in that magazine for the first time when I was about 21. It was almost a decade before I managed to get my first book published, which is a slender book of poems. I got a $750 advance for that book, $750 Canadian. And I feel like the publishers may have overpaid for it, actually. So everything that's happened in my writer's life since has seemed completely unlikely to me. When I published my first novel, the publisher sent me on a proper reading tour. They sent me across Canada. They put me up in really nice hotels. And when I was in Ottawa, I stayed in the Chateau Laurier, which is one of the most famous hotels in the country. It's like a little castle in downtown Ottawa. And my parents happened to be visiting my brother in Ottawa when I came through, and my mother's always wanted to see the inside of the Chateau Laurier. So I invited them to come and spend the night with me at the hotel, and they came down and I got them settled in the room, and then we went downstairs to the bar, which is called Zoe's, I think, and we had several drinks, we had something to eat, and then when the bill came, my dad, as he always did, reached for his wallet, and I said, no, I'll put this on my room and the publisher will pay for it. And as I was signing the bill, I could see out of the corner of my eye, Dad was watching me and shaking his head. And I said, Dad, what's wrong? What's going on? He said, my son, you're going to end up in jail. I was like, what are you talking about? What, jail? He said, there's no way you're going to sell enough books to cover the money they're spending on you. And I will admit, I was thinking the same thing at the time. But since that time, I've been invited to read in every province and territory of Canada. I've read in China, Poland, Greenland, Mexico. In my 30s, I read at the Belfast Public Library, and that was where I discovered for the very first time that Crummy is an Irish name. I had no idea about that before then. About 15 years ago, that's just one more unlikely thing, I was asked to fly to Japan to give a talk to Japanese scholars of Irish literature on the Irish influence on Newfoundland literature. I have no idea how they got my name. What I knew about the Irish influence on Newfoundland literature amounted to what we would refer to at home as sweet fuck all. But there was no way I was passing up a free trip to Japan. So I flew over there and I made it up, ladies and gentlemen. I thought, they're not gonna know. But of all the unlikely things to have happened in my life as a writer, standing here today as the winner of the Dublin Literary Award is by far the unlikeliest, the most surreal thing that has ever happened to me. And next to that very first publication in Tickle Ace magazine almost 40 years ago, it's easily the most glorious thing to have happened to me. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge, in particular, a couple of people who are here with me from Canada today. I refer to them as my Marthas. Martha Webb, my agent for the last decade or more, who I don't even know if she remembers this, but at one point I did ask her if she would be my literary executor after I'm gone. And at the time it was just my way of saying how much I admired and loved her. But now it's starting to look like there might actually be some executing to do. So if you change your mind before we put it on paper, I understand. And also Martha Canyon-Forstner, who has been working with me since my first novel, which came out in 2001. And that novel was actually the first book that Martha was the lead editor on. And we have worked together on every book since. And she is now not just my editor, but the publisher at Knopf Canada. So I love you both, and thank you for being here with me and for sticking it out all this time. Okay, I'm almost through. I do want to take a moment to acknowledge Paul Durkin, who was a poet who I've always loved. Paul came to Newfoundland a number of years ago to attend a tiny little literary festival called the March Hare. And because I was coming to Dublin this week, I pulled out his books last week and spent a couple of hours reading through those things, which I had read dozens of times. And I was shocked when I heard about, and deeply saddened when I heard about him yesterday. So, yeah, it's, I don't know what else to say about that. To be doing this at the same moment as he's being laid to rest, I'm really grateful to have had him in my life. And just one more thing. I was told a story a number of months ago about an Irish poet. And you may have heard the story. I wasn't told who the poet was. It may have been Paul Durkin, for all I know. But he was having some trouble. He was talking to his wife, and he was having some trouble making peace with what seemed to him to be excessively laudatory and fawning praise for his work. And his wife thought about it for a moment, and she said, well, if it's offered, you must accept. Just don't inhale. So this is me gratefully accepting what is an unbelievable honor that still feels not quite real, and doing all I can not to inhale. Thank you all so much.
Congratulations once again to Michael. It has been my privilege to announce the adversary as this year's Dublin Literary Award winning title. You can get your copy here at the festival's bookshop on site or at your local library wherever you are in the world to enjoy this tremendous piece of work. Thank you to everybody who joined us in person here and online. Michael Crummy is going to be in conversation with Madeleine Keane tomorrow at 6 o'clock as part of the International Literature Festival Dublin programme for a more in-depth conversation around the adversary. You can visit ilfdublin.com to book your in-person ticket or find details of the event live stream. You're all welcome to stick around and enjoy music and refreshments, and I'm sure you will. Once again, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Done it! I've just watched Michael Crummy win this year's Dublin Literary Award, and this is so exciting because this is such an immersive historical novel. It is so gripping and terrifying and hilarious, and I got so involved in reading it. It's especially good for me because I only just read this book in the past couple of weeks, so it's still very fresh in my mind, but it's such an incredible adventure and so skillfully written. It just draws you into the story, and I just fell in love with it, and I can't wait to explore more of his work. And what a wonderful, moving, heartfelt, funny speech that he gave. So yes, this is so wonderful, and now I'm going to go get a glass of bubbly and hopefully be able to talk to Michael soon. So I'm here with the winner of the Dublin Literary Award, Michael Crummy. Very exciting, big congratulations to you.
Thank you.
So happy to see this result, especially because I read the novel so recently with my online book club, and we've been having lots of discussion about it. There are some readers that found a lot of the content incredibly violent, but also so much of it really funny. So I was wondering, for you as a writer, did you find it difficult to balance that the kind of brutality of existence in this small coastal town with a lot of humor and liveliness as well?
Well, I think partly I was just trying to give a true depiction of what Newfoundlanders are like in terms of, and humor has always been the way that Newfoundlanders have dealt with difficult circumstances.
Right, in order to survive.
In order to survive, and you either laugh or cry, I think, are the options available to you. So the humor in it, and it's kind of like those in Shakespeare. After a really intense scene, there's often like a moment where he puts somebody funny on stage to just sort of break that up a little bit. But I recognize it's a very difficult book for some people to read. You know, I did a little event in a place called Riverhead near Carbonear in Newfoundland, and afterwards a woman came up to me, and she was not quite my mom's age, but I think she was in her 70s. And she said, you know, some of my friends have tried to read it, and they said, oh, it's too dark. But she said, I loved every fucking minute of it. And I do think that I meant it to be a quick read. I meant it to really move along, partly because it is so dark, and I didn't want to force people to wallow in it. But I also made up my mind when I started that I was not going to pull any punches. You know, this book is a mirror image of the previous book, which is a book called The Innocents, and the engine of that book is love. And I was thinking about Blake's Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience, where he said he was trying to show the two contrary natures of the human soul. So I had written this book where the engine of it was the love between the brother and sister, and the flip side of that, of course, is this book, which is a brother and sister who despise one another and actually wish each other harm. And I decided if I was going to do that, I was going to put my natural instincts to one side and let that story be what it needed to be.
Yeah, it definitely does that, and it's so gripping because, especially because it's such a brutal, harsh world. You don't know who is going to survive for very long and who is going to make it. Now, you talked about in your wonderful speech about how you started out as a poet and focusing on language, and I definitely felt the lyricism and there's a lot of creative use of language, especially in terms of insults or sexual acts or sexual anatomy. I was wondering, do you have a favorite word that you found and came across? Because I know you did research.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to pick one. There were two main sources. One is the Dictionary of Newfoundland English, which has been on my desk for every book I've ever written. And it's an incredible work of scholarship. And it just shows how creative and playful and cutting Newfoundlanders could be in their adaptation and their additions to the English language. All kinds of descriptions of weather and oceans and human character as well that are completely unique to Newfoundland. So I've always used that. I also, for these two books, I found something called the Dictionary of the Vulgar Tongue, and it's a British thing from the 1790s. And again, it's a compilation of the way people spoke on the streets, or in the bars, or on the docks. And the language was so unbelievably creative, and that I just pillaged. Like, I wanted to get as much of that way of looking at the world into the novels. And I don't know if there's a favorite. The one that I keep coming back to in my own life is he's the biggest coward that ever shat a turd, which I just think is such a complete dismissal of somebody that you can't get a better dismissal than that. So I've been using it in my own life as well.
It's become part of your own lexicon.
Yeah, that's right.
Very good. Big congratulations on this award. Do you have any plans for the prize money? Because it's quite substantial.
It's substantial, yeah. I did. When the shortlist came out, I would not allow myself to spend that money in my head. Like, I just, since I've heard the news, I've been spending like crazy.
Making plans.
But for the first time, I'll be able to give a little bit of money to my daughters. My mother has a travel fund that I'll make a donation to. And then I've always wanted, for example, a little wood-fired sauna, which was just completely outside the realm of possibility. But now I think I might be able to make that happen.
Added little luxury.
That's right. And then, as so many of the other winners from the past have said, it'll give me time. you know, and that's the best thing a writer can get, is time to sit and write. So,
do you have plans to, since you've written 2 books in roughly, the same area and same time period, do you have plans to remain here, maybe go to another cove, or explore some of the characters' lives further? Or
I don't know, and I never know what the next book is. I had no plans when I wrote The Innocents. I had no plans to write a companion book. I am getting a little bit of pressure from some people to write a 3rd book. So if something feels natural, I'd be open to that. But right now, I'm just gonna enjoy this, and we'll see what happens from there.
Well, yeah, you definitely should, and well deserved, having a glass of bubbly. And but huge congratulations to you, and thank you so much for writing such an engaging book and for chatting with me.
Thanks for doing the book on your podcast.
Thank you.
Okay.
It is warm out in Dublin today, so I've come back here to my hotel room just to cool down a bit and wind down after the excitement of that ceremony. What a fantastic result, and it was such a pleasure to be able to speak briefly with the author, because he is such a charming, lovely, and smart guy, and so I hope this award encourages a lot more people to discover and read his work, and what a wonderful celebration of libraries from all over the world as well. So I got a little goodie bag as I was leaving the ceremony, and it came with this blank notebook of the Dublin Literary Award. So that's a really fun thing to have. And also there is a bookmark celebrating the adversary's win, or is it the adversary? The adversary, the adversary. I always get mixed up. I think he pronounces the title of his novel The Adversary, but yeah, I always get mixed up with it. But I also want to show you my bookshop purchases from this morning, so I couldn't resist picking up a few books. So I got this novel from Hodges Figgis bookshop, which is such a lovely big bookshop, and this novel called The Wildings by Lisa Harding, which follows 2 teenage girls who go to an elite university in Dublin in the 1990s, and how they fall under the sway of influence of a playwright, and it follows that tense story, and I just think that sounds like a really interesting tale. And also I've been meaning to get a copy of for ages Open Heaven by Sean Hewitt, who was primarily a poet. I think this is first novel, and so I thought what better opportunity than to get a copy of it here in Dublin, and so I got this from the bookshop Books Upstairs, and also I was really interested in how this is a paperback edition of the novel, even though it just came out and there are different hardback editions. So I asked the bookseller, why is it that there's a paperback of this as well, and he says that in Ireland they also do trade paperbacks alongside hardbacks, although I don't think it's cheaper. It's still 19 euro. I shouldn't do an Irish accent, but yeah, it's 19 euro, please. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading this novel. I heard such great things about it, and I read a chapbook of the author's poetry before, and really enjoyed it, and yeah, so looking forward to that. And also I went to Ulysses Rare Bookshop, which I didn't buy any books from there because they're all quite expensive, as you would expect, but I did get a card while I was there, so that was really great. So thanks for following along on this Irish journey with me and going to the book prize ceremony. What a fantastic book award, and I hope more people become aware of it and read more books that are listed for or win this prize, because yeah, they obviously librarians have fantastic taste, don't they? we all know that. But I would love to know what you think about The Adversary, if you have read it or if you're interested in reading it now, or if you have any Dublin tales that you want to let me know about if you've ever visited this city, because I definitely want to come back. I'm flying out tomorrow morning and I wish I could stay longer. So thank you for following me along on this journey. I hope you're doing well and reading good things, and I will speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.